So a lot can change in a few weeks. Now we have a much bigger likelihood of an ETF with Ethereum, which could be a massive on-switch for the bull market. I'll be honest with you though, I genuinely thought this was going to be rejected. So yeah, humble pie. However, it's not over the line just yet. This could trigger the entire market to spark into life. The timing is perfect. We're after halving. 4-year cycle narrative is still in sync here. Adding an Ethereum ETF alongside the Bitcoin ETF, that could mean even more ETFs in the future. It's a really good stepping stone. Bitcoin dominance is still high. We still haven't had that big alt season. We've had a little taste recently, but nothing as crazy as what we could experience from prior cycles. So let me know in the comments below, are we due an alt season? If so, what altcoin do you think will do the best? Let's talk about what's been happening. So the first bit of news is very obvious. Crypto lifted by Ethereum's biggest jump since 2022 on the ETF outlook. Basically, and I will showcase this, the betting elements around the ETF approval from the SEC has changed. But stick with this video because there's something huge that has been done that changes the entire outlook, in my opinion, of how the market will operate, right? This is huge. So potential bartering basically and a little bit of bargain shipping here and there enabled some elements of, I think, opinions to change. I've said it before. I thought the ETF for Ethereum would not get approved. I think it's a lot more likely now. But we saw these steps with the Bitcoin one when we first saw the Bitcoin applications years and years ago. It was like, go away. And then all of a sudden we started seeing these little things happen, which was like obvious. And then thought to yourself, you know what? It's very, very likely now. So that's huge. So when we talk about that is huge. Now, this is kind of the news. The update odds for the Ethereum ETF approval has gone up to 75% from 25%. That's a huge shift, right? Massive, massive shift. So yeah, when we talk about it in terms of obviously the political side of it, the staking side of it, and obviously the SEC thinking it's a security, those sort of vibes are pretty huge and will stick on the wall essentially. So that is absolutely huge news. The other bit of huge news is this news. This is absolutely crazy, by the way. The SEC asked exchanges to update their 19B4 filings on an accelerated basis for spot Ethereum ETFs. The key word in there is accelerated. When we go into the main article though, it says here, and as I said before, the SEC has been, in my opinion, I thought they were going to reject it. But now, moves suggest progress has been made here. So they're certainly working alongside certain probably institutions, elements around what's happened with the Bitcoin one, applications, the money side of it, all that kind of stuff. And when we talk about the odds increasing and changing, that is huge. And yeah, it seems like they're actually openly communicating now, which maybe a couple of weeks ago you would never have said that. So let's look at the impact of what the Bitcoin ETFs have already done. Now, this is obviously just the inflow table so far for the last, week or so. Yesterday's event essentially created yet more inflows. And ever since, 10th of May, we've had a steady of the ship essentially, right? A lot of good thing. ETF for Grayscale has not been selling off. There's no outflows. And most importantly, there's still been inflows. Overall, when we look at the overall bigger picture, it's looking really good. Let me show you this in a graph. This is where we currently stand, okay? Not too bad. Personally, it has slowed down, but we're starting to see that uptick again, right? We haven't got the most up-to-date data here, whereas it is on the far side, which was what I showed you just before. The underlying issue that we have had has been the outflows from Grayscale. That has been slowly stopping. They had a premium, that premium was met, and obviously people have been selling due to that obvious factor, right? They got cheaper Bitcoin, they held it, they sold it, right? Ooh, you're not allowed to sell in this market though, obviously. However, fundamentals, this is just the Bitcoin one. There is other Bitcoin ETFs across other countries. There's some in Canada, there's some in obviously in Europe as well. We've now got a one in Hong Kong, etc. But Ethereum is a different beast. That's the thing. Ethereum could open the gates to a lot of other things, which is what we kind of need to talk about. This is like, yes, you can see 11.8 billion inflow of new potentially volume through retail customers, whatever, spot BTC ETF. That's huge. What about Ethereum? When I look at the market and I think about retail and previous cycles and personal reflection is Bitcoin's obviously the king in my opinion, but when there's a big candle and it gets people in, people go, I don't want to buy that, it's too expensive, they'll look elsewhere. Ethereum might be the next best option for people, and that might send it higher. And then eventually you might get to a point where Ethereum is too expensive, and then obviously they'll go to like something else, like maybe Solana, maybe Polkadot, I don't know, Cardano, Chainlink, whatever, you get the idea, because they all perceive that it's going to be cheaper. And talking about those assets alone, they might also become ETFs. What if BlackRock, Fidelity, etc.? Now, this is speculation, not financial advice in any way, but if you've got Bitcoin ETF, Ethereum ETF, right? Cool, yip. Will there now be calls for other ones and to be able to build a basket of ETFs somewhat like what the stock market created back a couple of decades ago with their ETFs, with their index funds and stuff? All speculation, but it's certainly a starting point. And it's a little bit scary in terms of how political and traditional market financial news impacts now the crypto market. Other news to talk about. Wow, this one was a one out of left field, essentially. So any central bank digital currency that is not open, permissionless, or private like cash is nothing more than a government surveillance tool. I love that. So there's a lot of like to and fro a little bit here in terms of the government. Obviously, yes, there's obviously rumors. And if you know the news, Minnesota has recently published a bill to state that, your Bitcoin is your Bitcoin, it's safe and all that kind of tangible assets, all that kind of good stuff, right? Big problem is there's a lot of like gray areas around central bank digital currencies. I personally think they're awful and they should not happen. I think we've got a really good system in terms of cryptocurrency. We should just enable that as an alternative thing. Yeah, dollars dying, whatever, but it works. Let people use it. No point bringing something totally new and alien that's going to control people. That's a problem. Cryptocurrency could then become more of a mainstay because people will look at that like gold, like silver, like whatever. Huge, right? In my opinion. Now, the final bit of news, which is huge, right, is essentially a bill that has been put forward to remove the SEC from crypto, putting it all in the Department of essentially Commerce. And that's the big thing here. The SEC have, with all their might, in my opinion, tried to slow down cryptocurrency, and it's kind of failed. And I think now you've kind of seen the fruition of power of the institutions, money as well. Yes, I know it's a very contradictory statement, but ultimately you can't stop something that's genuine, big, whatever. Now, for obvious reasons, you can see here, the function of the secretary shall serve as principal advisor for the president for policy pertaining to deployment, use, application, and competitiveness of blockchain technology or other distributed ledger technology. Stuff like that is relatively huge, and it's its own entity. Department of Commerce, leadership on blockchain. It's huge, right? I think that's good news. Need to be a little bit careful though, because that could also mean the obvious. That could be Gensler doing his thing, not good. So hopefully it's a bit better. So let's do some technical analysis. Before we go on to this, feel free to check out Patreon if you want more videos from me, as well as a premium community, which I'll be honest with you, I can't keep up with. It's absolutely crazy. Some of the alpha in there is ridiculous. So let's talk about Ethereum. I've not looked at the Ethereum chart for a while, and I've had this on my chart for a little while. This is just an obvious kind of thing, but we're going to start from scratch because I've been asking you guys, what do you like from me? And a lot of people say, I like your technical analysis, and I fucking don't know why. Now, if we're going to go from the swing low to the swing high, now, when we talk about market technical analysis of market psychology and the fundamentals, the chart will often tell you a picture. It will tell you something, what's happening. Now, what we've seen here, when I zoom in, we have had an obvious correction. Sometimes they will marry up. We went and retested the EMA 21 on the weekly. We've went down to the 618 on the Fibonacci, and it was a genuine level of support. When we put our cursor alongside here, we've had levels of resistance back in 2021. We've had levels of support as well in September 2021. Oh, they did. You get the idea? The big problem is sometimes you need a little kick up the arse, a little catalyst to tell you what's going to happen next, which is where we're going to get into, and it's going to be quite fun. So when we talk about this was a catalyst that needed to happen. It's a change of character, essentially, that the news just came out and it's going to create a little bit of an upshift. This could be the almighty trigger for a catalyst for an alt-season market, because Ethereum slowly, and without you probably knowing about it, has been dying and has been making the Bitcoin dominance just slowly rise. Some of my altcoins actually haven't been doing too bad, right? When I look at my market. But when I look at Ethereum, and I will show you, it wasn't doing well. So obviously, yes, but when we look at the Ethereum.D and Ethereum BTC, it really has been struggling, and it has went to a level of interest, which I marked on my chart a long time ago, right on the 618 from the entire move from 2019 all the way down. This could be the correction done. Not financial advice. This could change. It's all probability. It's speculation. So don't freaking comment on it. But you get the idea, right? That is a very, very big correction that has happened over a period of years. So yeah, Ethereum is looking 10 times better. When we look at Ethereum.D, similar sort of vibes. We're absolutely melted through support levels and not looking very good at all. But we have found a level of interest, 2021 levels. 2022 levels. Huge. But yeah, that could be fun. In terms of where this could go, direction of travel, I think we're going to test all-time highs. I do. I think we are genuinely going to test all-time highs here. This is the move to break even in terms of where the correction was. And obviously this here, this level here is the previous all-time high. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to present some findings for you. One, it's only 26% away. It's not that far away. That could happen. Now, look at that candle. That is a candle to stand up and take notice. Now, it needs to close here. This weekly time frame needs to close. That's the caveat to all this. It needs to close. If it does, it's one of the biggest bullish engulfing candles you've seen in a very, 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 very long time on Ethereum. Let's talk about Bitcoin. This is analysis that I put out on the 29th of May. I've also been tweeting, sorry, feel free to follow me on X, Twitter, whatever, about this as well. Not to mention, I said, buy in May, retire in December for a bit of banter, and it came out pretty well. This is my analysis, right? Obviously, I did a bit of a fibception. We have gone lower, but I do think this was the bottom. Let's talk about it in more detail, right? So I said, the mania starts when Bitcoin hits 83K. I think that is where the next leg is here. They clear the break of all-time high. Previous holders have slowly come back on the previous run to all-time high. Dominance will go towards 60% and new money will rotate back in, right? That is kind of the ingredients that I'm looking for. When we look at the market here, this is the mess what I have. Sorry, it is a bit of a mess. It's basically two Fibonacci's on it, and we've went right down into this 382, and we've also wicked into this previous level as well, and now we're on our jolly way. We could well be going up to here, which is, you know, we've got a confluence between two Fibonacci's around this $83,000 level, which in my opinion could be retail FOMO, and that retail FOMO could be freaking massive, and that could be a one big leg up. We are still in a very bullish correction. We went and tested the EMA 21 perfectly. We even have a hidden bullish divergence on the RSI here, the momentum indicator that I have up there. Things are looking pretty toasty, looking very, very nice. And that's the thing. Interest is returning. When we got volume coming in on the ETF inflow, and we've got people actually genuinely bullish and talking about it, as well as the ETF narrative around Ethereum now, that is huge. Not to mention post-halving. We've had our halving correction essentially, right? Where we did correct. And when we look back, and I can go even deeper with this, when we look at the previous years, this was like previous years again. We've done a similar sort of correction of the same amount of days last year to this year, but obviously just a month apart is mad. Everyone talks about, oh, sell in May and go away. But realistically, May, June, July can be a very fruition month for accumulation. And that could send us much higher when the catalyst is really brewing. All of these are catalysts. They're all starting to burn in now. And the news is looking very, very positive. Without Bitcoin, we can't also not talk about Bitcoin dominance. This is where we are. Is this slowly showing to be a potential top? This is still a very, very, very sticky area. Now, I've talked about a long time ago, I was like, I don't think 54, 56 will happen. Now, I've always been saying like that could be the absolute top. I have kind of settled down a little bit and said, well, actually 60% looks quite good. But now the narrative is a little bit changed here with Ethereum. As I said before, with Ethereum, the BTC pair, that could have bottomed now, right? That would then lead us to believe that maybe actually the biggest weight will probably have the biggest impact on this. And if that starts going up, well, this will start going down, creating more and more hype around it. Obviously, other altcoins have to take up the mantle here. Chainlink could be a very, very good one as well. Not financial advice, but Chainlink looks like a really good hit compared to when it was a couple of months back versus obviously now when you see the news. The big problem we've got is we do not know when this is eventually going to roll over. The trick is, as I say, not financial advice, you need to have altcoins when it's high and then sell it when it's low, right? The big underlying problem that people have, they get married to their bags and they're buying stuff and they're not looking at the bigger picture. You need to start looking at the bigger picture. Ensure that you have an exit plan. I got plenty of videos on that, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and check them out as well. Now, final bit I need to talk about. Somewhat of interest here with the dollar. The dollar has, I think, started to show a sign of weakness. We have been slowly correcting. We had a big, massive jolt up, then we did a correction, and we started a bit of an uptrend here, right? So when we think about the start of the year, a lot of altcoins certainly from this point here from March have been pretty shit. Nothing's happened. Bitcoin as well has corrected. We are starting to slow down. When we go to the lower time frames here, we can see that we are in a bit of a correction. We've had a big market pullback into the 618. We create a new level down here. We are still in somewhat of a correctional kind of phase. If we're looking at the new kind of situation here, we could be looking at essentially this, where it's pulled right up to this level here, and we could be going down. If this starts to roll over, it shows weakness in the dollar. Therefore, spending power is going elsewhere, risk on assets, stock market's doing well. We could talk about the stock market. I'm not going to, because this video could get very long. But that is back to all-time highs. When we talk about that, Bitcoin money has obviously increased. Not to mention gold. Gold is at $2,400. It's going absolutely crazy, and it is at all-time highs. Silver is also doing incredibly well. So it definitely is a risk-on season right now. When we go from the past and we talk about, this month potentially could be a bit of an iffy month, hasn't been, has it? And before I leave you, this is the total market cap. This is kind of from a previous video from a long time ago in terms of each individual bull and bear market, from my opinion. We are still very much into this. And if we're looking at prior cycles in terms of length, it does potentially top out at the end of this year. Now, I know. I personally think we're going to run longer. That's just a benchmark. You've got to look at the past to get an idea of the future. Obviously, past data is not going to give you future performance, but ultimately, in the past, we have had top outs at the end of years, essentially. It seems to be the end of end of cycles tend to be at the end of a year. That could be huge. But ultimately, in the past as well, we've got to look at the fact here that in previous cycles, we've had absolute giga runs for a period of 6 to 8 months where it goes berserk. And that could still all line up pretty much in terms of certainly when we're looking at the 2017 run. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I will do another video on that. But anyways, I'm done. So if you enjoyed today's video, let me know if you liked it. This is a sort of format I'm looking to roll with in the future. More about news, more about what's happening, but also my own thoughts, technical analysis and stuff like that. I don't think many people do things like I do things, sorry, but it's just the way it is. If you like my stuff, as I say, like the video, subscribe, and watch the video that I'm, recommending you to watch here. That will probably help you a lot more with exit plans, because I think if we have one of these gigery runs, you need it.